Hello and welcome. Hope you are having a wonderful June 18th out there. Last few days of spring before we hit that solstice and make the turn into summer. It's been setting record heat where I'm at. If you know anything about me, I moved to where I live at about 2,000 meters, 6,500 feet or so. And I came from the humid Midwest in the heat, working outside 100 something degree days. And you think you move up to this elevation, you avoid all that. No, sir. No, ma'am. It is coming back to ya. And I hate the heat. You know what? But you know what I hate more than the heat? People building up players that are great, but not the greatest. And people building up people just to hype you up, and maybe they're just doing it to press the buttons. But I've told y'all and I've told y'all and I've told y'all about KD. Is he great? Yes. Is he one of the top 10 players of his time frame, like since he's entered the NBA to however long he plays? Yes. Is he a finals MVP? Yes. He's all those things. Is he a guy capable of leading a team, being the A1 number one person, doesn't matter who the role players are, and carry that team? No. I mean, he's had Harden before. He's had Westbrook. Here we are doing the exact same thing, and the Bucks did do some piss poor coaching. Sometimes I worry so much about basketball bets. Like Lopez just hung around the 3-point. I saw him walk past a rebound, and I'm just like, good God, what are you doing, man? Get that rebound. But they started attacking the paint in the game last night. For those that watched it, it was a really good game. Bucks dominated. Harden came out hot, man. He was on a roll, and then everybody saw it. He got that ball. He made a steal. His hands were still great. He forced like 3 or 4 turnovers. So that all that quick movement is still there. But he had that half court nobody in front of him. I mean, we're talking NBA James Harden people. And he let up. He knew he couldn't do it. He knew he wouldn't be able to spring and dunk or lay up. He hasn't done one layup because you do have to exert yourself for those layups. But, they put it all on KD. There's Green. There's a couple other people there that are role players. Blake Griffin. I think Blake Griffin, I see him schooling up people constantly. Like, why did you do that? You should have, pump faked and passed, or you should have dribbled and penetrated, and I would have popped out. He's constantly coaching up that team. I told you guys from the very get-go that the D'Antoni system, as much as the NBA has just gone almost completely to what D'Antoni was doing 15 years ago, 12 years ago, it's all going that way, right? But it just is not a playoff winning formula because you start playing teams with good defenses. The Bucks have held the Nets under. Let's go look at this real quick, all right? We're going to pull up. So it's 104-89, 114-108 when Kevin Durant had, everybody saying the best game of his career. Then it's 107-96. So the scores are, 89, 114, 96, 86, 125, 115. With Kyrie in those first 2 games, they were able to put up some points. Since that moment, they have gone into shutdown mode because the defenses, they realize, man, we can't just let these guys fire off at will. They will beat us if they do that. And you're going to run into Atlanta or the 76ers, who, despite the epic collapse of Doc Rivers and Ben Simmons, they play defense still. Those games aren't getting out of hand. And then you're going to go play the Suns or the Clippers or the Jazz maybe. There's teams that play defense left. This isn't Boston where you're putting up 141, 123, 119, 130. You're going to start playing some good teams, Nets fans. And I just want to, before we get too much further and we get off the track, let's look at KD's field goal percentage throughout the series. Last game, 15 of 30, 50%. Best of all time? No. The game on the 15th, 16 for 23, played 48 minutes, 13 of 16 from the free throw line, 17 rebounds, 10 assists. That was a complete game. Yes, Kevin Durant was able to do it with the backs against the wall because he knew they weren't going to win in Milwaukee. He knew that he was going to have to do that game and step up and come from behind so that they would just be able to force a Game 7. Now let's go look at his game on the 13th. He went an amazing 9 for 25, guys. Best of all time, Kevin Durant. He can beat anybody in a one-on-one match in the NBA ever to play the game. he ain't doing crap with 9 for 25 and his lack of defense play. He's lucky he didn't play more games against Ron Artest, boy. I'll tell you that much. Ron Artest would have been a thorn in that side. I mean, we've seen what happens with great defenders, you know. We've seen that. We've gone down that route with Kevin Durant. 9 for 25. Let's stay on the topic. How about 11 for 28 on the 10th? Yeah, that's another great high field goal percentage, 39.3% after your 36%. Wonderful, best, top all-time one-on-one, says a certain guy on FS1 whose name starts with the same letter, first and last name. Yeah, great job, guy. 12 for 18, okay. Didn't take as many shots, had a better percentage. They won that game 125 to 86 on the 7th. He was able to depart a little early, no problem. Only had 4 rebounds, 6 assists because he was able to leave. I will give him that he has been getting more rebounds than lately, but with the way the Bucks attempt to even make there's nobody within 8 foot sometimes of the rim when the Bucks shoot the ball. I mean, there's just nobody. I just don't get why Lopez is out there hanging around. The Nets have nobody that can hang with Lopez. He's too big for Griffin. He's too strong for KD. They got to come on with it. All right, we just got to get past that Lopez on the 3 thing. And then Kevin Durant, first game, 12 for 25, another below 50% shooting performance. You got to let the facts speak for themselves sometimes, people. And the facts are KD is not shooting great outside of 2 games in this series. So 2 out of 6, 33%. They're 3-3. You can argue that he hasn't been able to play any defense. PJ Tucker, he shot a lot of off-balance shots last night. He was, going towards the rim, away from the rim, trying to juke out Tucker. KD's just not that guy. And people that want to pump him up and then people that will be influenced by people. These are large ESPN network shows, FS1 shows, that is just pumping up. They just want the Nets to be good. They just want New York to have something so damn bad. And they just want LeBron to be absurd and him to be, taken off his throne, which they already thought they had coming with Kawhi. Notice how quick the storyline went from when Toronto won. Oh, Kawhi's the best. He's going to be the next torchbearer. He's going to be the first one when he went to the Clippers to win for 3 teams. Nope, it was the other guy in LA, and his name was LeBron, and he's one of the best of all time. And as much as y'all don't want to like him and want to get rid of him as the king, he's probably going to win another championship, and he probably will win one before KD and the Nets do. And they were awful this year. So, just don't buy into all that hype, man. I just don't do it, Kevin Durant, is he a top 10? Yes. Can he play great? Yes. Is he the guy that can he's too thin, dude. I mean, he's, he don't have the broad shoulders to carry that load and be everything. Be the assist man. Be the rebounder. Be the defender. Be the leader. Be the vocal leader. It's just, he just doesn't have it in him, man. And I cannot wait for this Game 7, honestly. But before we get to that, we got a couple more games that are just as equally interesting on the NBA line tonight. It's, the 76ers, there were so many instant memes basically going around from that game. And it's going to be a tight one tonight in Atlanta. It's been, I went on a rampage after that. Like I said, I started looking at everything, and it was, a lot of Ben Simmons hate, a lot of pictures of fans and stuff like that, it was funny, but I've also felt bad for the 76ers to lose that in that fashion in a couple ways. And, it's hard. In basketball, coaches have a huge influence, right? But the players have to be the one to execute it. And us fantasy basketball players have known for, because it always was kind of thought that Ben Simmons was a little bit of a cheat code, because like on Flea Flicker or whatever you may be using, it will allow a flex position, but Ben Simmons was guard forward kind of before anybody else was. He had that designation, and when you had that designation, that opens up 4 of your roster spots. And if you played with the flex or an extra guard or a forward, it's 5 or 6, right? So it was a definitely advantage. But then when you just got to looking at his numbers, and it was good to have him on a week or a day, if you're playing it daily fantasy, that he could cover a lot of positions for you with not much talent. Like, let's say 8 of your guys are out that weekday, or you only have three teams that you possess playing. Well, Ben Simmons becomes infinitely valuable then. But in reality, he just doesn't do enough, man. The name of the game now is points. I think if Ben Simmons would have been around in the 90s, there would be nothing wrong with his game, and he would be appreciated more for his game. But it's just crunch time. The NBA's become a sport that it really doesn't matter what happened before the last 3 minutes of the game, because it's always going to kind of come down to those last 3 minutes. The NBA's done a very good job of how they do that. I mean, you could be up 30 points, and somehow it's still going to come down to those last 2 minutes, 3 minutes. That's how they've kind of structured it. It's just, you got to have people that can score points. You need more than rebounders and defenders and a guard that can dish it off. You need the guy that if they're like, oh, he can't make anything, let's go foul him as soon as he touches the ball, and then you don't make it, and then you put your position in a bad team. It's hard, and free throws, as easy as they are for some, they're not as easy for others. But it's a pivotal part of the game. And the great players, look at what Embiid's done this year. Look at what Jokic has done this year. Look what Jordan did all the time. Look at what Kawhi does. I mean, if he even goes in the paint and somebody breathes on him, he gets a foul. He's been doing that for 4 years. He gets more fouls going into the paint. Like, his free throw attempts per game, it has to be up there in like the top 10 for as little as he plays, especially. But, that's what the great ones do. LeBron does it. They all do it. KD does it. They get to the free throw line and they have a really great free throw percentage. Some people like to say LeBron's not that great. Well, people don't really just go out of their way to foul him at the end of the games because he's Mr. Clutch, So just keep that in mind. Let's get looking at the lines today. We got the 76ers at Atlanta Hawks. The spread, -3 for the 76ers, -112, -109 for the Hawks on that one, so just almost evens. Then on the over-under, we have 221.5. That's a pretty high line. We'll just have to see where it goes. But, if Atlanta wouldn't have had such a great comeback, the score total would have been much different. But if this were fists, we'd all be drunk. Isn't that right? And then the money line, -155 for the 76ers. Ooh, just moved it. -167 for the 76ers and +138 for the Hawks. All right. Let's go look at it. I teased the line back a little bit yesterday. I'll share my bets, later on in the day when we do the bet of the day and so forth. Let's just look at some of the player props on here real quick. We have Joel Embiid's at 33.5 on his line. Ben Simmons 13.5. Tobias Harris 21.5 at +100. If he has any kind of bounce back game, that shouldn't be a problem. Seth Curry's just been lighting it up. Isn't that so weird that Joel Embiid and Seth Curry were the only people on their team to score in the second half? I mean, Seth Curry, he's a starter, but I don't even think most people would consider him probably, it's Embiid, Simmons, Tobias, I would think. But, I've been rolling with Curry a lot in DFS, and he's been a lower buy, and he's been pumping it out. Over 15.5 is at -127. The under is at +100. Very interesting. Bogdanovic is 17.5. Clint Capella, 10.5, -125. Pretty interesting. Three-pointers, a lot of the lines set at 1.5. Seth Curry is over 3.5 at +140. Pretty interesting. Embiid's at 1.5 +110. I don't know if he'll make 2. He'll definitely attempt to, though. I know that. Cork Miles over 1.5 is at -143. The under on that is +112. Pretty interesting. We got to look at that one. PRAs, let's just look at some of the big mints. Joel Embiid's 49.5. Trae Young's is at 40.5. Pretty interesting line right there. The negative is at under 40.5 is at -112. Ben Simmons is at 29.5. Unders at negative 118, over negative 108. And then Clint Capella himself, 24.5, negative 105 for the over. Rebound, something I always like looking at. Capella's line has been staying at 12.5. Joel Embiid's has been at 12.5 as well. Joel Embiid's is at negative 139. Capella's is at plus 105. They haven't been putting, Dwight Howard on here. He comes in and just rebounds the crap out of the ball, though. So I wish he would get us a line on there. John Collins is at 8.5. That's a plus 110 for the over and negative 139 for the under. Another player that's been getting a lot of minutes. Double doubles. Here you go. Clint Capella, negative 127. Joel Embiid, negative 500. Tobias Harris, plus 265. These are all yes. John Collins, plus 200. Trae Young's at negative 103 for the yes and negative 125 for the no. Pretty interesting. Simmons is at plus 125. Capella's no is at plus 100. So, if you don't think he'll get those points, you can go that route. I think Capella's probably good for it. Bookies are telling you it's slightly tilted, negative 127 for that. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next game on the night over here on the West Coast. So that game's going to be 7:40 on the East time, 76ers at the Hawks. And then at 10:10 on the East Coast, we got the Jazz at the Clippers. The spread, negative 1.5 for the Jazz. That's at negative 112. 220 on the over-under. And then negative 121 to plus 102 on the money line. Very, very, very tight. You could probably parlay either one of these two. Whoever you think is going to win out of each game, you could probably parlay those and get a pretty good positive because all the money lines are so tight. So you just got to kind of take it for what it's worth. Maybe it'll be, worth your advantage on who you think will win. I'm kind of leaning towards the 76ers and the Jazz. I want to take both the road teams, but taking the road teams with their back up against the wall and the home teams just can close it out. That's always a scary gamble. Like I said, I'm probably going to end up just teasing maybe the overs or the unders, play it safe, enjoy the games in that sense, and just watch it on there. Looking at some of the player pops tonight for the Utah Jazz at the Clippers, I stay away from first basket, you guys. Points, something I'm looking at. Bantam over 9.5 at negative 121. He's been getting a lot of minutes. He's going to get more with Kawhi out. Something to keep an eye on. Royce O'Neal's is over 8.5. His is pretty low always. Paul George 30.5. Ooh, Donovan Mitchell 33.5. It's at plus 100 though. The under's at negative 127. Kind of feeling the under. He's going to have a good game. The truth is Ingles has been stepping it up for them as much as he can, and he may continue that. So, on the point total, not a whole lot of people up. 3-pointers. Let's see, Paul George over 3.5. My God, the under is negative 159. Over is plus 125. Bogdanovic is plus 125 for over 2.5. Mitchell's line is over 4.5 threes, man. His ankle's tweaked, and I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if they'll try to numb it. I don't know if they'll try to just wrap it tight. I don't know if they'll try to do CBD. I don't know what their plans are with it. But the truth is, he's hurt, and that's a lot of threes. 4.5 threes in a game. That is a lot. PRAs, not as many players up. I do Batum at 19.5 plus 100, something I'm going to research into, look a little bit later. Gobert's at 28.5. Donovan Mitchell, once again, over 44.5. The bookies are just expecting big things from him. Paul George is 46.5. If you think it's going to be a superstar kind of game, you can go clue in on those two guys and see where their line's at. If you think maybe they're going to, drop a little bit in performance, there's some really high unders available in that situation. Rebounds, pretty low counts. Rudy Gobert's is over 13.5. That's a plus 105. Paul George's is over 9.5 at negative 113. Let's go look at that double-double. Paul George is at negative 139. So instead of going with the double-double, just take his rebound line, guys. That's one thing I always look at. In fantasy, we reward pretty high for rebounds. Well, not, you get 1.5, but you get 5 points for a double-double, which is pretty big. And so I due to playing like that for years, I've always looked at rebounds. I've always looked at double-doubles, and that's what you got to do. That's like the little pro tip for you. Paul George, double-double. negative 139. Could he get that with assists? Yes, but he's far more of a rebounder than he is a disher of the ball, especially with him having to be the guy. So I very much look forward for him to, what you do is you go look at the rebounds. I think he's probably pretty good for 10 rebounds. That's negative 113. Why go put all of that on the double-double when you have way better odds with just the rebounds, right? So always keep that in mind. Little pro tip, like I said. Same with Gobert. Like his is negative 435. I don't think you have to worry about his rebounds. He's going to get, his line's at 14.5, and it's over that. For the over, it's negative 124. So the bookies are telling you they have no problem. Oh wait, that's his point total, excuse me. So over 14.5 points at negative 124. You go look at his rebounds, they're at 13.5 at plus 105. So they kind of set that rebound, a little high. Anytime it's at 9.5, they're telling you it's a fringe double-double. You always need to look at those odds. But when you go back at Gobert and they say, well, now he's got to get 14 rebounds, and they moved it to a plus 105. I'm not saying Gobert can't do that. And, and if you think he can get that, it's still better than going with the negative 435 for him just to get 10 rebounds, 10 points. You're not going to get much of a return doing it that way. Player matchup to score the most points, Donovan Mitchell at negative 180 to Paul George at plus 140. Whew, that is very interesting to me. I think Paul George might have it. We'll just have to see. Bohan versus Reggie Jackson, negative 118 for Bohan, negative 108 for Reggie. And same thing, Bohan against Morris, and Morris is at negative 108. So they're basically saying Bohan should score more than both of these guys. It's pretty good, man. There's some pretty good odds out there. I've been staying away from odds boost altogether. It's just soccer right now. Nothing basketball anyway. And then, just want to talk about the Bucks Nets game. I think it's going to be pretty close. Right now, it's negative 1 point spread for the Nets, over under of 216, and a money line of negative 112 for the Nets, negative 107 for the Bucks. I do think it's Giannis's game. There are no player props on there. Right, of course, not right now. They probably don't know who's in, who's out. Oh, the spread just moved to half a point. Pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting. I do think the Bucks are going to win it. I've told you guys, I don't divert from it. Giannis has to play well. If not, they're just, KD, he's so amazing. KD. And the media all year has been Nets, LA, Nets, Brooklyn. Oh my gosh, they just hand them the title. It's the first week of the season, just hand it to Brooklyn. Nobody's going to be able to compete with them. Nobody. Well, they're in a game 7, and they're playing against the former back-to-back MVP, and Middleton outscored him. If Middleton scores more than 35 points, it's a lock. I'm not even worried about what the Nets do if Middleton can score that. All right, there's just not enough variables in the factor for that to matter. But it could be tight. KD could play a great game. The series indicates that he's not going to, but he has had what people said is the best game of his career in this series, and he knows he has to do that. The thing about this is KD knows what he has to do to win, but if he loses, there won't be any pressure. There won't be any criticism. They will just say, well, he didn't have Harden. He didn't have Irvin. It doesn't matter that all the rest, like Kawhi's hurt, Mitchell's hurt. We had so many injuries. LeBron came out and made a comment about that. That's what happened on the short season. Really, really stupid. The NBA needs to move its season back. It needs to quit competing with the NFL. Fans want it. It's just the part of it, and I just, the NBA has their narrative. They want Kevin Durant in, because what happens if not? You do have Chris Paul still, you do have Paul George, and you do have Donovan Mitchell, and you do have Trae Young. But then you also have Capella, you have Giannis, you have Bohan, you have Gobert, you have several players that aren't American-born players that will have a chance to lift the trophy, be the finals MVP. And say what you want, that stuff still matters to the people in charge. And it'll be an uphill climb, because the NBA's narrative is they want Kevin Durant in the finals. They do. They want him to be the guy. That's why the ESPN is pumping him up, FS1, all these, multiple millionaire, billionaire entities. And they have their agenda that they're told to push, and they're pushing it. But just be really careful, because I think this is the time of Giannis. The age of Giannis is upon us, and he's not looking back. And he knows that his legacy needs this. It needs this. The Bucks may not have their coach next year, even if they do win. The Bucks may not have Middleton. The Bucks may not have Tucker. The Bucks may look a lot different because they have built a championship squad. They've missed out the past couple of years. This is their time. Their time is now, and they need to capitalize. Giannis must get to the Eastern Finals. He must make it compelling. And if he can go, he will join Jimmy Butler as somebody that will get a lot of credit. It will be validated, and they will prove that they can put a team on their back and go where they need to go. So that's what I anticipate happening. We'll try to get you a parlay going. I will have the bet of the day going out there for y'all of you. And, I just want to remind everybody, please, 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 please go sign up for the Kawasaki Charity League, man. It's very important. Like I said, my daughter contracted it. It's one of the leading heart diseases in the developed countries in the world, yet it's not too known about. I have a pretty heartfelt story. You can go check it out. It's on my pinned tweet on my Twitter. But please, guys, it's 64 teams. If you've never played IDP, if you've never played in a 16-team league, you will love it. You will love it. It might be a little hard at first, but you will love it, and you will dominate all your other leagues just by being in this league because it is so encompassing everything you have to pay attention to win. You can have fast anything in life and not care, but to win, it takes a lot. To be a champion, it takes even more. If being a champion was easy, everybody would do it, but less than 1% are, and that's the bottom line. So go do that. We'll have the bet of the day. I'll have it for you here in a little bit later. I'm going to do a little bit more research before we just kind of pump one out there. And then we also have DFS going. So shoot me up any lineups, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Iggy's Fantasy and Betting is the website. We got the draft kit coming. This is episode 181, guys, on the season. 181. So we're almost there. I'm probably going to make Monday the end of season 1. I'm going to really revamp up and get ready for the season 2 launch in July. Draft kit will be dropping. We will be talking pretty much exclusively NFL and fantasy. I will be still doing NBA, a little bit here and there because, I love the NBA, man, and it's fun, and you should too, and I'm pretty damn good at it. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind. And I'm pretty damn good at fantasy football too. Man, we'll just keep it going. We'll keep it rolling, and we'll see what's going on. And But this will be the second to last episode of the season 181. Hit me up with any questions. We've been talking golf. Apparently there's a big match between the Scotland and the England boys over there on the WhatsApp. A little banter going back and forth. That one is not for the faint of heart. No. Well, have a wonderful Friday, and if you're kickstarting your weekend early, here's to that. To all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day to us. Enjoy it. Be with your family. Get ready for the socks and the coffee mug. And be lucky out there, friends. Let's go win some money and make these bookies pay, eh? Oh, yeah. That was a good one, guys. Well, y'all take care. I love y'all, and I'll talk to you soon.